"19 more coronavirus cases in the city, including 11 local infections." An expert says Hong Kong will probably have herd immunity against COVID-19 by the end of next year. And yellow vest protests back on the streets of Paris.
Hello and thanks for joining us here on TVB News. Locally acquired COVID-19 infections rebounded to a double-digit daily increase today. Apart from the 11 local infections, health authorities also reported 8 imported cases.
Authorities have urged the public to remain vigilant at all times, even though some social distancing measures have been relaxed.
Among the 11 local infections reported today, 3 of them were found through the Universal Community Testing Program. Among the newly confirmed patients is a 52-year-old man who took the test in Tai Po on Thursday. He recalled having dinner last Sunday with a friend who was later confirmed with COVID-19. But health authorities were not informed about this gathering when they conducted contact tracing.
Retrospectively, interviewed the previous case and noted that they indeed had dinner together. This is an inherent problem and difficulty we encounter during contact tracing because we need the patient to recall as much as possible the details, movements during the preceding 14 days, which is expected not easy for some people, unless we have a 24 recording of all their movements, which is not possible even in many places of the world.
At least one family member of the 52-year-old man has now come down with the virus. Meanwhile, a 41-year-old Indonesian domestic helper who lives with her employer at the Lai King Disciplined Services Quarters have also tested positive for the virus through the voluntary testing program. The other confirmed cases include a 75-year-old retiree and 1 more guest at Metro Park Hotel in Mongkok. The 8 imported cases are mainly returnees from India and 3 domestic helpers from the Philippines.
Respiratory medicine expert and government advisor David Hui says Hong Kong may get coronavirus vaccines by the second quarter of next year.
He also says until the government secures those vaccines, a further relaxation of social distancing measures could lead to a resurgence of infections. Haley Zhou has more.
In the last 14 days, Hong Kong reported 156 cases of COVID-19 infections. That's about 11 cases per day. Are we almost coming to the end of the city's 3rd wave of infections?
No. It is only easing off a bit. It's not under control yet.
We've seen this pattern when we relaxed social distancing measures, infection numbers shot up.
So we have to be careful in relaxing the social distancing measures. For the restaurants, I think they still need to have a limited number of people per table. It cannot be no limit, like what happened in June. That would lead to a lot of celebration, big parties, and therefore outbreaks. Bars are of the highest risk.
The race for a COVID-19 vaccine is in full swing with 9 institutions, including pharmaceutical giants like Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca in their final stage of clinical trials.
By the time the vaccines are available and then get delivered to the different countries and cities, it should be somewhere, 2021. I think for Hong Kong, we probably will look at the second quarter, 2021.
Once the government secures the first batch of vaccines next year, which will likely be enough to cover only 35% of the population, who will get vaccinated first?
Well, we'll follow the principles of the seasonal influenza vaccine. So the elderly, those who have existing illness, and frontline workers like healthcare workers, frontline civil servants, they will be given a higher priority for the first batch.
He says chances are people will have to get a vaccine not just once, but twice. And by the end of next year, Hong Kongers may acquire herd immunity against COVID-19. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
Top government officials are hailing the universal testing scheme a success. They also provided an update on the pending health code system. Deng Yao-Nie has more.
Just one more day for the citywide COVID-19 testing scheme. Patrick Nip, the official in charge, expects more than 1.7 million people will have been tested by the time the program wraps up. He says with more than 1/5 of the city's population already tested, the scheme has fulfilled its mission to identify infection patterns. Citing a low confirmation rate of 26 COVID-19 cases detected among over 1.67 million people, NIP says the epidemic has largely been alleviated.
So in future, with the enhanced and increased testing capacity, I'm sure that we will focus on target group testing or to do rapid and large-scale testings when there are cluster outbreaks.
With the mainland support team set to leave town within days, health authorities are being questioned over local efforts to carry out strong community surveillance. However, NIP expressed continued confidence in the government's response to the pandemic.
Since the beginning of this epidemic, more than 1 million testings have been conducted by a hospital authority and the Department of Health.
That's echoed by Financial Secretary Paul Chan. He wrote that the city's mass testing capability and lab facilities enhanced under the scheme will continue to serve as regular defense readiness against future outbreaks. These as the Secretary for Labor and Welfare, Lau Chi-kwang, announced another COVID testing for elderly home employees is aimed for next week. He noted over 1/4 of the city's COVID-19 deaths are linked to care homes. And an update on the long-anticipated health code system. Paul Chan promised to accelerate the launch of the program, but says it will only be rolled out when no asymptomatic cases are reported in the city. Dong Yaonie, TVB News.
Crowds flocked to restaurants this afternoon on the first Sunday after further relaxation of social distancing rules. Some outdoor seafood restaurants in Sai Kung were back in busy mode. Currently, only up to 4 people are allowed at each table at eateries. For big families dining out together, this restaurant has set up partitions that have cutouts at the bottom so that people can share dishes. Restaurants are only allowed to operate at half capacity and offer dine-in services until 10 p.m., at least until September 17th.
Hong Kong Post will distribute the second Q mask to eligible citizens starting tomorrow. Local residents who registered online between May and June will have the second mask delivered to them. They will receive a text with a tracking number of the package before delivery. Hong Kong Post will then deliver it within 3 working days. The authorities reminded citizens to stay vigilant against mask-related scams, stressing members of the public will not be asked to collect the mask in places other than post offices, and notifications won't be delivered through phone calls or emails. AstraZeneca resumed British clinical trials for its coronavirus vaccine after pharmaceutical safety watchdogs gave permission to do so. Phase 3 trials of the vaccine developed in conjunction with AstraZeneca's vaccine is widely believed to be one of the most promising globally.
A Chinese researcher with alleged Chinese military ties has been released from jail in America. This after an attorney put up $750,000 in his home equity as bail. The attorney, an immigrant from China, said he wanted to offer help to show that the U.S. justice system works fairly. Dr. Wan Tang, a cancer researcher, was arrested by the FBI in July after spending nearly a month at the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. She was accused of lying about a relationship with the Chinese military to gain access to a lab at the University of California at Davis. The U.S. government says FBI agents found ample evidence she has ties to the PLA Air Force and the Chinese Communist Party. She allegedly lied about those ties on her visa application. Her lawyer says any photos of her wearing military uniforms are from her days attending military school. U.S. federal officials are trying to return her to custody, claiming she is a flight risk.
Donald Trump rallied his backers in Nevada in a bid to drum up support in a state where polls show his Democratic rival, Joe Biden, is ahead.
The U.S. president went through his laundry list of grievances, including the Democrats, mail-in voting, and where the pandemic started. Kicking off a western swing of the United States, President Donald Trump barreled into Nevada for the weekend. He spoke for more than 90 minutes. The president mused about staying in office 12 years, despite constitutional limits that prohibit U.S. presidents from serving more than 2 four-year terms. Focusing on this year's vote, Trump again accused Democrats of trying to rig the November 3rd election. He also took a shot at Democratic nominee Joe Biden over an ad that criticized Trump for allegedly making derogatory comments about U.S. war dead.
But he's a pathetic human being to let that happen, where they put an ad like that where I'm standing over graves and then they said, he said this, with no sources, no nothing. They got nothing. And I have 25 real witnesses with the names, with everything, saying it never happened.
Biden has been hammering Trump for failing to lay out a national strategy to combat the pandemic, which has killed more than 190,000 people in the United States. Trump actually defied local authorities by holding the Saturday night rally in tiny Minden. His initial plan to hold one in Reno was stopped out of concern it would have violated coronavirus health guidelines. Thousands were in attendance at this event, with few wearing masks and little social distancing. Trump also took another swipe at the origin of the coronavirus.
We were doing so great, and then we got hit with the plague, the China plague, and we're not thrilled. It's a disgrace. Nobody should have died. Nobody should have died. We got hit. The whole world got hit, but they stopped it from going into the rest of China. They stopped it from going into China, but they didn't stop it from coming into the U.S. and Europe and 188 countries.
Trump's campaign is investing heavily in trying to sway voters in Nevada. He narrowly lost the state in 2016 to Hillary Clinton, and the state has trended further towards the Democrats in the past decade. Trump currently trails Biden in the polls there.
Smoke descended on the U.S. West Coast Saturday as wildfires continued to rage in the region.
Tens of thousands of people have now been displaced in the states of California, Oregon, and Washington. Daniel Rao has more on this story.
The U.S. cities of Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco now have the world's worst air quality as a result of smoke pollution from the ongoing wildfires. Blazes have been raging in Oregon, California, and Washington for 3 weeks straight. According to officials, at least 30 people throughout the U.S. West Coast have been killed by the wildfires. The death toll is expected to rise sharply in the coming days as firefighters venture further into damaged areas. 40,000 people in Oregon have been evacuated from their homes. A further 500,000 of the state's residents are at risk of displacement. Investigators are also looking into whether the Alameda fire, one of the largest in Oregon, was sparked by arson. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden argued Saturday the fires are a consequence of global warming. This echoed comments made last week by California Governor Gavin Newsom. Newsom highlighted the need to take action against climate change as he inspected damage from the North Complex fire, one of the deadliest in California's history. President Donald Trump, however, blames the fires on poor forest management. Trump claimed the blazes could have been avoided if dry leaves on forest floors were properly raked. He will visit California Monday to be briefed on the crisis, which has seen 14,800 firefighters deployed in that state alone. In total, 97 blazes are currently still active on the U.S. West Coast. Officials say it could be some time before the fires are extinguished, despite the best efforts of firefighters. This due to the scarcity of rain, high temperatures, and strong winds in the region. Daniel Rao, TVB News.
French police fired tear gas and arrested more than 250 yellow vest protesters in Paris on Saturday. A heavy police presence prevented demonstrators from reaching the Champs-Élysées. The yellow vest activists were seeking to revive their anti-government movement, which had been hindered by the pandemic. The group gained notoriety in 2018 when they began violent protests against President Emmanuel Macron's fuel tax and France's high cost of living. Law enforcement officials have now urged Yellow Vest members to respect lockdown restrictions. This as France aims to control a rapid resurgence in COVID cases.
Still ahead on the program. 5 Hong Kongers who fled to Taiwan reportedly under detention in Kaohsiung. Local supermarkets accused of raising prices of products before offering discounts. welcome back to TVB News. A Taiwan reporter said 5 Hong Kong protesters he helped flee to the island are currently being detained in Kaohsiung and unable to meet with lawyers.
The Taiwan Mainland Affairs Council declined to comment on the case. Pinky Wong has more.
Taiwan journalist Chong wrote on his social media saying he was one of those who tried to bring the 5 Hong Kong protesters to Taiwan. Chong said the group left Hong Kong for Taiwan on July 18th. He said they have been detained since, out of reach, and not allowed to meet with lawyers or human rights groups. The Post said only a small number of personnel from the Mainland Affairs Council and Coast Guard administration are aware of the condition of the 5 Hong Kong people. The journalist stressed Taiwan needs to establish a comprehensive mechanism to assist political refugees. He said he opened up about the matter so those who can help can step in. Chong urged Hong Kong protesters not to go to Taiwan for refuge, saying getting there by boat no longer works and will put their lives at risk. On a telephone interview, Deputy Minister of Mainland Affairs Council Chiu Choi-chang reiterated the council will not comment on specific cases and urged the public not to engage in unnecessary speculation. The council also said it suspects certain information is being circulated for unclear purposes and may harm the existing mechanism established to help Hong Kong people for humanitarian reasons. The Mainland Affairs Council set up the Taiwan Hong Kong Services and Exchanges Office on July 1st. Chong did not reply to our inquiry, and his latest social media post stated he won't make further statements as the incident may be under investigation. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
In Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying says the 12 Hong Kong residents arrested and detained on the mainland attempted to commit the crime of secession. Hua made the allegation as she fired back at the U.S. State Department, which earlier noted the arrest of what it called democracy activists. It's another example of the deterioration of human rights in Hong Kong. Shenzhen police also confirmed today that the group is being detained in the city's Yantian district. Mainland authorities arrested the group off the coast of Guangdong last month as they were reportedly fleeing to Taiwan to seek political asylum. The Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong accused some local supermarkets of misleading customers with fake promotions. A probe by the party tracked the prices of 22 types of products available at local supermarket chains over the past month. It found some stores raised the prices before discounts were applied to the items. That made the discounted price the same as the original price. The party pressed the authorities to strengthen the monitoring of such practices and review relevant regulations.
There should be a definition for original price, and there should be regulations on promotions and discounts. When we're looking into the competition ordinance, we should better improve this ordinance by, for example, allowing private litigation so that consumers can actually protect themselves.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.